With my office being in Taunton, a lot of people ask me about the Taunton Courthouse. And there is a relatively new Taunton Courthouse, which is at 40 Broadway Street. It has both the district court for civil and criminal offenses, along with housing court, which I'm less familiar with as I don't practice housing law. There's a juvenile court and probate and family court there as well. I'm from Boston, so the parking in Taunton is not bad for me, but for a lot of people, it's more restrictive than they're used to. There are some court parking lots that you do have to pay for ahead of time, a couple blocks from the courthouse, along with a garage. There's on-street metered parking. You can find on-street parking a little bit further away without meters. Behind the El Mariachi restaurant, there's a public parking lot that you don't have to pay for, along with on Trescott Street. But you want to give yourself a little bit of time to find parking and to pay for that parking ahead of time. You go through the glass doors on the first floor. You'll have to go through metal detectors where there is security and court officers there. You do have to take out your keys and any metal, including belts, and you'll have to give yourself a little bit of time as there's likely to be a line depending on when you're going to court. Once you go through the metal detector, you'll see generally right in front of you the district court clerk's office for both civil and criminal offenses. But before going in there, you'll see a bulletin board that will usually list the district court cases and what courtroom that they are in. And you can look to see what courtroom it is. Right on the right-hand side, just past the men's and ladies' room, there is the first session, which is generally where arraignments are. That means usually the first time that you're going to court to get criminally charged. There can also be probation surrenders, and sometimes other cases will be there as well. You can look on the court docket sheet to see what courtroom you're in. If you are there for arraignment, you want to see whether or not you want to check in with probation to give them your information and to see whether or not you're looking for a court-appointed attorney or not. But that's where the first session is. If you see that your case is in another courtroom, it will likely be on the third floor. Courtroom 7 and 8 are for probate, but the other courtroom sessions generally will be for district court or housing court, and occasionally a second session of juvenile court. There's an elevator, or you can walk up the stairs. If you continue on the first floor to the left-hand side and continue to walk down, you will pass the housing court clerk, and the housing court is only open certain days and times, and it's important to know that ahead of time. Again, I don't practice in housing court, so I'm less familiar with that. If you continue a little bit further on, you'll see the juvenile court probation, and sometimes you'll be told to report to probation first, particularly if you're asking for a court-appointed attorney. They'll have to do a background check for your income and things of that nature. If you continue forward, you'll see the clerk's office, and you can check in with the clerk to make sure that you're where you need to be or to see if there's something that you need to file. There'll be a court officer, though, that will come out and will check you in. Taunton juvenile court clerks in probation would be where you check in, or with a security officer. You wouldn't necessarily go into the courtroom itself because the courtroom is a closed courtroom. They will call your case and you'll go into the courtroom when they call your case. If you have an attorney, they'll do a call of the list with the attorneys, and the attorney will come out and tell you that your case is going to get called at such and such a time, or just that it will be later in the day. On the second floor, you'll see, if you go all the way to the left, you'll see the registry of probate, and that's where you can file complaints for divorce, grandparent visitation, guardianships, things to do with wills, things to do with estates and that nature. You go up, if your case is scheduled to be in court, though, you would go up to the third floor. In courtroom 7, they'll have a bulletin board with a red number, and it will list, so if your name is Smith versus Smith, it will say, for example, your case number 15. If you have an attorney, the attorneys will check in with the clerk. If you do not have an attorney, you'll stand in line when you get there and make sure to know the red number so that you'll check in and you say, I have case number 15. The clerk will then look at your case and see if you have all the appropriate paperwork or not. Courtroom 7 is generally Judge Jacobs, and courtroom 8 is Judge Fields. Again, it will be a similar situation. There'll be a separate bulletin board with the case number there. If you go back again down to the second floor, if your case is not on or you want to file something, that's where you would check in. you'll get a kind of like a deli counter, you'll get a case number, and you'll wait for them to call your case, and then you'll tell them that you want to file a complaint for divorce or check and see where your case is, things of that nature. There are also some computer terminals there, and you can sometimes look up your court case as well. And you want to make sure not all cases are in Taunton. They can be in Fall River or New Bedford if it's in Bristol County. If you continue down the hall, you'll see that there's both a district court probation and a probate and family court probation. The district court probation is dealing with district court criminal cases, and it's important to know whether you're going to district court again for criminal cases or whether you're going to probate and family court for probation or family service officers there. Sometimes you'll go to the courtroom and they'll ask you to bring down an intake form that will have your criminal record run for probate court, and that will be at the family service office or probate and family court probation. There'll also be mediators there that sometimes the clerk will tell you to come down and go to mediation, where you give some information there again to family and probate for the probation department there. If you continue down the hall past the probation department, you'll come to the Department of Revenue. You can get your child support arrearage run there as well. Attorneys typically go to the Department of Revenue and have to get the file stamped to show that they met with Department of Revenue ahead of time. You can get an intake sheet to whether or not you want to have Department of Revenue take money, garnish child support, or whether or not you're looking to have the other parent pay you directly. But there is Department of Revenue on the second floor as well. On this video, I will leave a couple of the phone numbers as well, and I have a blog that has some more details about the Taunton Courthouse. There are a couple of different restaurants nearby, including Off-Broadway and Jimmy's Diner. There's a good donut shop a couple blocks down that has handmade donuts. And my blog again has some different places to eat or going to movies or the Galleria Mall, etc. if you're unfortunately stuck in the Taunton Courthouse for that day.